Well, hi everyone, and good evening. Johnny Larder, Wednesday, the 18th of July. It's club grubbery time again. And I don't know about this interview other than to say I think we're in for a real ride with this one because, John, you're the chairman of the Aligned Council of Australia, and the primary focus of that organisation. And we're going to introduce our special guest in a moment, but we're also joined by Katie Ashby-Koppens, who is one of the founding members of the ACA and also one of their lead legal counsel. So welcome to you too, Katie. But the Aligned Council of Australia is all about trying to get this government to see the inherent danger of signing up to the international health regulations for the WHO. And so our guest tonight is going to really look, if we can get this interview out in amongst our political class in Canberra, that's what we need to do. Because we have Dr. Astrid Stuckelberger from Geneva, who has a curriculum. Honestly, it's about 28 pages. I've reviewed it. I didn't know whether to read it or wait till I made the movie and watch it on television. It's astounding, Astrid. Thank you so much for being on our program.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
So let me give our guests a bit of an idea of what your background. Um, you're an you're an interdisciplinary scientist, which means you cover a variety of disciplines. You've studied at the University of Geneva and Lucerne, and you've spent about 25 years doing that and working in those organisations. You're an invited professor at many European universities, but primarily, apart from all the other things you've been doing, you worked in teaching and development of the IHR, the International Health Regulation for the WHO, and you worked on guidance of pandemic preparedness. And you have insights that go way back, insights that the whole world needs to know about. And tonight we're really looking forward to unpacking that with you. So thank you so much again.
Thank you. My pleasure. I'm glad this can finally help because nobody from WHO is speaking and they don't want us to speak. They cancel my courses, my lectures. So yeah, I'm glad that we can use it and I'm there to help.
So you have really laid it on the line. There's no doubt about that. Being a whistleblower in any organisation can be risky business, but in this particular organisation, I mean, the WHO is not renowned for its integrity, especially more and more each day as we learn so much. We're learning a lot more about their director, who has a very checkered past. And so, look, we need to unpack this. But John, I want to have you included in this as the chairman of the ACA, like we did last time we had a meeting like this. So, John, if you could introduce the questioning with Astrid and Katie.
Yeah, thanks, Woody. Look, I think it'd be really good, Katie, if you kick off and just maybe give everyone out there a really simple overview of what this IHRs are, the pandemic treaties, how they've come about, and what the timeframes are, etc. Just so people have got a really good working knowledge of what we're talking about.
Well, it would be my pleasure. So it's confusing by design, but I'm going to simplify it down. There are two pandemic treaties we're going to talk about tonight. The first is the International Health Regulations. We'll call them the Pandemic Regulations. They've been around for a significant period of time and have undergone some amendments since COVID. Then there is the Pandemic Agreement, which is a brand new document which was just voted on at the World Health Assembly last month and was purportedly adopted. It's got a lot more to happen on it in respect of an annexure, so it won't be able to be signed by any country for at least a year. So we'll just sideline the pandemic agreement, and we'll just focus on the international health regulations because they have a looming date. The international health regulations, which we're talking about tonight, are amendments to the 2005 version. The international health regulations have been around for decades, and they're really designed to assist countries to receive guidance to respond to public health emergencies of various concern levels. For example, with COVID, the 2005 international health regulations were in existence, and those allowed the Director General of the World Health Organization on the 11th of January 2020 to notify or declare COVID as a fake, which I'm not joking, is the acronym. It means a public health emergency of international concern. And then subsequently, 2 months later, the Director General declared the COVID pandemic. So the international health regulations were 2005, were the version that were hanging around at the time of COVID and really allowed a lot of things to happen. Since COVID, and for the reasons of what the World Health Organization describes as the catastrophic failure of countries to essentially do what they were told or to act in solidarity and equity, the WHO has been busy writing amendments on the 2005 version of the International Health Regulations, and those significant amendments have been received by countries, and Australia and most other countries have until the 19th of July, so that's a month from today, to expressly reject the International Health Regulation amendments. Otherwise, we are duty bound to include them into our domestic legislation by 19th of September 2025. And we've got to also engage or bring into light a organisation, a national IHR authority that ensures that we do all of the things that we said we were going to do under this regulation. That's pretty much in a summary. So we're focusing on the international health regulations, which is perfect because Astrid used to take the courses for that. So we've got the subject matter expert of experts right with us tonight.
And Katie, just further on that, the real risk to Australians is exactly what we're seeing overseas in places like Brazil, where they're fining families for not vaccinating. There is some reports that might be being looked at now, but up until recently, that's been the case. And in Singapore, they've just introduced laws after Bill Gates visited Singapore, coincidentally, which will allow them to jail citizens who refuse to be vaccinated in a pandemic.
Yeah, well, look, to some extent, that at the end of the day is a law made by the country, or in our particular situation, the states. And we've got certain similar legislation in Western Australia. That isn't necessarily a decree coming from these international health regulations per se, but certainly it's laying the groundwork to allow states to feel comfortable that they can do that. And the reason why that is because there's requirements around or specified in the international health regulations that require increased surveillance, increased testing, tracing, and tracking, various other impositions on our human rights, which really just gives states the right to feel that they have the right to impinge upon our human rights even further, because we've got this watering down of our rights as a consequence of being under the fear or under the guise of the next pandemic, which the WHO is gladly touting is just around the next corner. And of course, we've had Dr. David Bell on before, and he says, look, naturally occurring pandemics are on the decrease. The last super large one that we had was the one after the First World War 100 years ago, where the Spanish flu, and since then the World Health Organization counts in their pandemics a number of different types of disease, which I think has killed 26,000 people in the world in the last 20 years. So, we're talking about this next pandemic as being a large, scary thing just around the corner. But I just keep coming back to the same thing over and over again with these documents is the WHO is gifting itself more power. We've got politicians who are willingly giving it away, and we are more at risk from these documents of human nature than we are of Mother Nature. They really are laying the groundwork to allow some pretty incredible things to be encouraged under the guise of recommendations, which we know that our politicians will get punch drunk about with the options and the opportunities that they have under, the recommendation of the World Health Organization is.
Mm, mm.
It seems like a free ticket out of jail. We can blame somebody else.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right, Graham. And that's such a big part of this is, look over there kind of thing. So that's what we're really wanting to draw to attention. And if all of what could happen under COVID could happen under the 2005 international health regulations, the additional layers of surveillance and censorship control, it's something we all need to be particularly concerned about, because it's layering up those mis and disinformation legislation. It's layering up the digital identification, vaccine passes. You're not going to have the right to be able to go places because you will need to have a certificate that says that you have received X, Y, Z.
Mm.
Yeah.
Astrid, we'll probably go into a lot of the grubby stuff that's going on behind the scenes in the second half. But from your point of view, having been involved in the teaching of all this and essentially a specialist when it comes to pandemics with the WHO, what's your take on this? I mean, we've got America flagging that they're exiting the WHO, Italy, Argentina, and it looks like New Zealand have put their hand up and saying that they're not going to at least sign these treaties. So, what's your take on this really deep, dark issue here? I mean, it's nasty stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, I must say from the beginning, when I realized this was all fake, when they wanted the lockdown, that was, I just couldn't believe that something that in the international regulation is the last resort, and that you do it locally, and suddenly all the planes are grounded and everybody locked down with the mask, with all those measures, with hydrogelic things in the shops, with plastic in front of you. I couldn't believe it. I thought this is a coup. It's a coup on a coup d'etat, and I thought, okay, calm down. But I really tried to make coherence, and we are now at the end of this accumulation and chain effect of lies, deception, of fake science, violation of IHR amendments. I mean, and of ethical, like Katie says, human rights is within the international health regulation. And I was in charge of the exercises, so we will come back to that. And there are articles very specific where you cannot ground the airplane, and you cannot just stop travelers from traveling. And this was against the international health regulation, which the objective was to keep the business of travel and commercial business. That was the fourth checkpoint of the Annex 2. It's an algorithm that nobody's talking about, but should have been used. So when you know how the countries do for their country, and you see that they took a standardized measure globally, which is impossible logically, epidemiologically, legally, everything. We are now 5 years later, and they keep on. And this is from the beginning. They made many pandemic treaty and then IHR amendments that just blew up suddenly in 2022. I mean, it was like, what are they doing? This IHR goes very well. I mean, you don't need to change every article to make it coercive. So I spent time studying it at the beginning, and I said, this is really crazy. They have an algorithm of coercion and of taking off the responsibility of the country. So countries normally in WHO decide. It's upon request of the country that WHO Secretariat coordinating, member states is supposed to act. And there we see the opposite. WHO is dictating to the world, and everybody is obeying. So I think what you're doing is extremely important. I've been, of course, in the rally last year to oppose this, and we did texts to try to oppose, etc. and to distribute it to everybody that wants it, on sovereignty, and how to show that this is a massive violation of all the levels of international law, United Nations law, Charter of United Nations, Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I mean, we will go back to that, but and of the constitution of the countries. So we are now in front of this massacre of our rights. And I can't believe that Australia has been so coerced with France. I think there are some countries in the world that have been much more, locked down and attacked on the civilians. And so I'm glad to be here. And what I want to say is that, yes, what Katie and your groups are doing is extremely important. And I think that you could be the model for the world, because maybe we can make a template and tell, now you have to react, all of you. And maybe that's what the spiritual war we're living is pushing us to do, is to unite we the people and humanity to say no. I mean, they can only dictate us as long as there are people obeying. Yeah, so that's my take. I was shocked and I keep on being shocked. But if I look at the higher purpose of humanity, maybe it is necessary because they have been corrupted for so long. And for me, the UN has been built for that. And it's the only explanation why governments have taken the side of the United Nations Corporation. That's how to make it short.
Well,
and Astrid, I mean, I know Hoodie was trying to get across the gravity of your resume, but I mean, just for everyone out there, because I think this is so important. When we get people on Club Grubbery, quite often they undersell themselves and what they've done, and it leads to the real importance of what they've got to say, and I really need to highlight this with you, Astrid, because. You have been a part of this WHO setup for years. You've been part of the model of it being a success. I think it's important that people know a little bit more about you and your background, so that really does hit home to people just how important what you're saying is.
Yeah, yes, that's always a challenge when I speak for the first time to an audience that has different levels of knowledge, of understanding. So excuse me if I take shortcuts, but it's all backed up by science or by experience or political documents, and I have proofs of what I say. So from early on, in my life, I'm born. That's important internationally with a mother Norwegian, a father Swiss German in Geneva, and so I was very much into the international aspect of life, and I wanted to work for the UN and WHO because I thought that's great. Switzerland is too small for me, and so I took very quickly a course at the United Nations when during my studies for my Master of Science. I was in WHO on diagnostic, mental health diagnostics, intercultural mental health diagnostics, where you see that mental health evaluation and evidence is not at all the same in different countries and different cultures. It's a cultural aspect. So I was very in the mental health, and I wanted to work there, but actually to work there, you have to have an open door by somebody, or you have to be sponsored by your government. And I realized that, and I said, okay, well, then the university, I was in a multicentric WHO research with the geriatric hospital. And that's when I started with University Hospital, Faculty of Medicine. And after that, I went very quickly into a university and the UN or WHO collaboration. And as I'm fluent in English, they always took me on board. And that's how I have been. I mean, since I'm 28 years old, I have been in WHO, finishing my Master of Science, then a PhD with the University in Public Health. And I kept on with aging, on the review committee of ethics, research ethics. This is why I can talk to you how systematic fraud of WHO approved research ethics for the vaccines. It is just it is just a horror to see that, I have to say it now, that a private sector would decide for the destiny of people and impose on WHO to not consider anything ethical, like the informed consent, very informed, signed with a copy, like conflict of interest, like paying for any damage, stopping the research if there are deaths, etc., etc. So I was on ethics. I further director generals, and I was many times with them. I'm discreet, so they liked me, so they took me in many meetings, like health in all policies, which you understand now why all ministers and ministries are involved in health. You can argue that health is everywhere, and needs to be in telecommunication, needs to be in education. So WHO grabbed so many topics that I was in social determinants of health. It's one of my last mandate was also with innovation, a consultancy, I mean. So I have my whole life been, and the biggest contract official working with WHO was with IHR. From 2009 was the first invitation, and 2010 to 2000 and 2013. And after that, I kept on collaborating for lectures. So just that people understand, I have always kept, and they always spotted me out and took me back to WHO to help in different, aging was a big part, of course. That was my first, I forgot to mention. But I also got a prize from Kofi Annan because we organized the International Year of Older Persons. That was 1999. And I realized how not only WHO works, but how all the agencies work, because we created the Geneva International Network on Aging, which I cheer still today, but I stopped all collaboration with WHO since 2016 because they were promoting euthanasia in old people in 2016. So I realized that they had put at the head of aging somebody who had not a clue, but was there for another agenda. And I said, we cannot work with them anymore. There's something wrong. So this Geneva International Network on Aging got me to organize UN Open Days twice with all the agencies, but also to put aging in all agencies. And this is how I can talk to you not only about WHO, but I've had mandates with UNEP, United Nations Environment Program, to make a secondary study and assessment of Yale and Harvard on the fumes of Iraq war on people and animal health on the ground. And I did not dare to talk about it because it was secret. Now I don't care anymore because it was a United Nations Commission on Compensation, and Yale and Harvard had said, no, nothing happened, nothing happened. And I mean, I read the reports of the country and it was horror. So I just contradicted them completely. But also the International Labour Office, we did a lot of lectures there. So it's, when I make a lecture, and even I can do ones here also, just a half an hour presentation for people who really want to understand with slides, it is a big octopusy with many tentacles. The United Nations is so huge. It was small at the beginning. WHO was small at the beginning, and today it's become something uncontrollable. Just to give you an example, they are training, they have a robot ambassador, Sophia, for mental health. So if you want a mental health consultation, you need to go to Sophia robot. You know, things like that. Or they have this education of transgender, they're promoting masturbation in children in schools everywhere in the world. So I want to show people how I really believe that it's great to be united. It's fantastic for humanity. Until it was increasingly weird. Also at the academia, I must say. They posted people who had interest in vaccines very quickly. And in WHO, I only realized this in 2016 when I was in front of the executive board with my students from WHO and friends and, you know, people I made friends there. And we were having coffee in front of the executive board in 2016. And they told me, you know what's happening now? And I said, no. I said, it's crazy. Bill Gates, with Gavi and Bill and Melinda Gates funding, says he is giving more than any other country to WHO. So he is entitled to have a seat in the executive board to direct officially Gavistan. You see how things turn, but we never imagined what's going on. I can see and discover things retrospectively, like the global plan of vaccine of Bill Gates, who is directing WHO from 2010 to 2020. And he still is. He's now taking over everything. It's true. He participates financially more than any country. If you put Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation plus Gavi, the Global Alliance for Vaccine Immunization, which he has started long ago in 2000, with UNICEF, and then which was called the Institute of Depopulation, which is his agenda. And then he came to Switzerland in 2006, and then 2009 had total immunity with his international organization. So
we'll probably get into that into the second half.
Sorry, I'm getting.
No, that's all good. Just to tell, unfortunately, it's a sad old show. This WHO, it's like a modern day death camp. There's just no doubt about it. Look, before we let you go, Katie, the Aligned Council of Australia, we're obviously very keen to move forward and bring the public along with us and inform them about what's going on. And obviously, we'll have some initiatives in the next few weeks that we'll put out on social media, etc. But ultimately, we need to get in contact with the politicians, don't we? I think Astrid alluded to this in a meeting we had the other night. That is so important that we write to these organisations, the WHO, we write to all our politicians and just and say no. So we might come up with some templates or something for that.
Yeah, already done.
I want to say
sorry.
I just want to say it's very, very important at all levels to say we do not consent. It's also at a spiritual level, because they're in a cult. And I have information intel from inside. It's a cult. This Tedros Ghebreyesus and Gavi. So it's important to say we don't consent, to write it down. It has an effect. Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sorry,
So we've got lots of initiatives. We do need to get Mark Butler to expressly write to the WHO and say Australia does not accept or does reject the 2024 international health regulations. That is extremely important. We're encouraging everybody to write to Mark Butler. We've got template emails and letters to politicians, especially with our new government, because of course our new government won't be sitting before the 19th of July date. So it is really important to get correspondence out there to our politicians, but also to make your people aware of this. Ask them if they know about the WHO, and it's not a band. And what they're up to, and particularly around the regulations. Let them know that there is a deadline coming up the 19th of July. There's everything on our website, alignedcouncilofaustralia.com.au. We represent the interests of almost 2 million Australians, because there are at least 2 million Australians that know about these pandemic treaties, and they are concerned about the ramifications of them. Sign up to our email mailing list. We've got weekly emails going out, or just jump onto any of the socials and you'll be able to see a whole lot of our memes and campaigns going around at the moment, myths versus facts, what the relevance of 19th of July is and what it means. Share it, talk about it, do it while we still can.
Oh, we've got a month left.
I have a question. To Katie. The more I look at this, Australia is part of the Commonwealth. What's the name of it exactly?
Commonwealth countries.
Commonwealth countries, and there are tribunals, and there are things that can be set up. I think I just sent you something. So should they also write and join with the Commonwealth to somebody who is heading this Commonwealth I don't know if it's a Commonwealth Association group, because it seems that everything is going from them down.
Yeah, I think it's still very much a state member driven initiative with the World Health Organization. The 194 member states all have a say and a vote if they've paid their bills. And so at this stage, it very much is a move with Australia. We've made similar work or done similar things in New Zealand to get New Zealand to speak up and reject the 2020 2 IHRs. So it is I think it's still member states getting to sign up or not sign up, but I do perceive that there is much more to be done. And I do know that there are other countries already looking at alternatives, while not ignoring the fact that, health is a very important issue. When the World Health Organization ceases to be about health, there's other groups and organizations that are setting things up. Our biggest defense partner, the United States, has obviously exited the WHO. Argentina's making similar noises. Those countries leaving, I think, is particularly powerful, and that sends a very, very clear message. And the other thing is, we don't need to sign up to these. We can still just take the recommendations if they suit us. We are on a massive country, a huge moat, miles away from everything. We've got the benefit of letting a lot of things play out before they actually arrive on our shores.
Yeah, great stuff, Katie Ashby-Koppens. We're going to take a break now. We'll say goodnight to you. Thank you so much for your presence and all the work you're doing. I think you've been very instrumental in the decisions made against the IHR in New Zealand, especially in your work with New Zealand Doctors SOS and other groups over there. You're a champion, Katie. We love you. We thank you for it. And enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. I can't wait to watch. Great to see you, Astrid.
Congratulations, and I'll support you. Anything that you need, I will be there.
Thank you. Likewise.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
And John and I will be back with our special guest, Dr. Astrid Stuckelberger, straight after the break. Thanks for watching. And here we are back for part 2 of this outstanding interview, John. We're really going to unpack some heavy stuff now with our special guest, WHO whistleblower, from coming to us from Geneva in Switzerland, Dr. Astrid Stuckelberger. Astrid, let's unpack some heavy stuff that you know. I mean, first of all, I want to ask you: have you felt threatened in any way because you're speaking out?
Yeah, it's a question that I'm asked, and surprisingly, not that much. I felt the threat from France because at the beginning, I was invited to a podcast. It's more than a podcast, a TV that was set by a former Sarkozy. I found out after a guy and Antoine, and I realized so I did a health program, and suddenly when I said that in September 21 that any director of the hospital or the school that vaccinates children should be condemned and taken into the street and being shown to everybody, and it should never happen again. I was so, that all the newspapers in France had, she is violent, because I said the guillotine. How do you call that in English? Is it guillotine?
Yeah.
I said the guillotine is too easy. We have to show to everybody who they are. And I said it lightly, not aggressively, but all the newspaper got that word, and I stopped every activity there, and I did not go to France for a year. At least I felt it in my guts, and but in Geneva, by people in the UN, I did not feel. I actually sometimes feel protected, of course, spiritually, but you have to know one thing. In 2020, I was in the short list to be the UN independent expert for crimes against humanity. And it's the Middle East countries. I have helped Yemen and Saudi Arabia for the Yemen war. And the countries started to like me and said, we would like her to be on this. So I was in the 3 last ones, and I could see people, who was kind of protecting me. And I thought, yeah, there's not only spies that are nasty, there are also people who protect you. So thanks God I didn't get it, because I don't know what, I couldn't have done anything. But who got it? And that's just to show you the corruption, is that the head of the Office of High Commissioner of Human Rights has been Dr. Bachelet, a pediatrician from Chile. And she came back and was re-elected, which is unprecedented, at the Office of High Commissioner of Human Rights. And one of the 3, we were 3, was from Chile. And of course, they took the Chile expert. So there are independent experts that are very good. There was a Swiss one that I saw for the psychotronic armament, for directed energy against people in the brain. And so I collaborated with him, and he's actually now writing a book. So there are good people. But now the grab is the whole United Nations for me. Yeah, so that was why I don't feel that threatened. I'm careful. And I never mention names except those that everybody mentioned. I know that, for example, I know Klaus Schwab. I've been at the World Economic Forum with religious leaders. That's my destiny because I was one of the coordinators of the UN Summit for Religious and Spiritual Leaders in New York in 2000. That's not in my CV, but so I know Klaus Schwab, and he was even in my office. I was in his office when I made my book on anti-aging regenerative medicine, which had parts on the danger of transhumanism, and which is their agenda. And he was very kind, and he explained to me why he was not professor, and he was kicked out of the University of Geneva. And so I know those people, and I've been collaborating with them, and suddenly they turn into their evil face, and I'm like, wow, is it possible that he can do this? And I mean, I can't believe I have some doubts sometimes if they've not been taken out and there are actors. It's very difficult. I don't know if you also have this, that you know some politician people and suddenly you find out they're part of this, and humanly you go, but how could they be like this? Is it really them?
How did they
Because
change so quickly?
yeah, so I'm trying to navigate cool. I don't have a lot of money, so that's good. I try to take a lousy car. I'm not, and I'm very careful with the people coming to flirt me.
Yeah, John,
I know.
you've already had some time in the last few hours talking with Astrid in your capacity as chair of the ACA.
Mm.
She's revealed to you some startling stuff you told me absolutely stunned you. I think it'd be really fruitful if you illuminated some of that with Astrid now for our viewers.
Yeah, thanks, Astrid. I mean, you've described the WHO as an octopus. Could you maybe give some insight to the viewers on the background of what how all this has come to fruition, where the Bill Gates of the world fits in here, and the Garveys, and what's been the timeline, and what's all led up to this?
Well, what is very puzzling is that you have to go back in history to understand where this comes from. What is the cause of of their behavior, of how come today Gavi is directing WHO, for example, and other. I mean, you know, when I was giving lectures on the United Nations, I show this huge graphic that everybody can go and look at. It's a graphic, the United Nations system. And you type that and you put graphics and you can see it. It's huge. And that's one of the first slides I show to show where is WHO. And so how did he manage to get into there, and why the WHO? And one answer is simple: WHO, because it's life. It's life, and what they want to do is depopulation. His family, Bill Gates, comes from a Fabian society. Just type it up. It's eugenics.
Eugenics, yeah.
Eugenics, his parents and his father was eugenics, and his mother was in reproductive health, just by chance. And he is in computer viruses, and technology. You see, so and his first institute was not Bill and Melinda Gates, but the Institute of Depopulation. And then he changed because he shouldn't show his agenda, and then he went into UNICEF, one of the first children. So you see that a depopulation, of course, you start with the children, it's the future of humanity. And then you go to what touches most people, and it is death, life and death, which scares most people. It's not war, it's life and death. So I think it was the open door. WHO in the whole system is the open door to go to all the health in all policy. And I took this course with Ilona Kickbush, who is the woman who created the first draft of the pandemic treaty. When I saw her name, I was like, oh, of course. She was so weird in the aging. She was already in the aging. That was in 1990s. And she already was head of the health promotion program. And aging was under her. So I had meetings with her, and each time I speak, she was nervous, and I could see her feet go all over. So I thought, what's going on with this woman? And now I understand I was not on her agenda. And she was taking care of mega cities, health in mega cities. And I couldn't understand. I said, why mega cities? It's not a priority. But so you see that in WHO, already in the 90s, they were creating departments, and some just to look good, like traditional health was very small. I was very interested. It was just beside mental health. There was only one doctor, Dr. Shan. I don't even remember him, from India. And so there was only a small department. And today, forget it. There was Chinese. He doesn't even talk about it anymore. But they were already had their agenda starting to be set up. So that's the first thing. The second is that the NGO world is not what people think it is. It's called non-governmental versus governmental for member states. But I found out, because I was also representing academic NGO on my spare time after I was known there. They asked me from the US. I said, okay, I can give it a try. But it was very interesting. I realized that, and in the course I had the gongo, the bingo, the wongo. And I don't know if you know this, but the bingo is Bill Gates, because he is supposed to be an NGO, non-governmental, and it's a business interested NGO. We could add eugenic interested NGO now, because really, so they were business interested. They were like the Clinton Foundation, like Carter Foundation, who are today, I saw them in the list of the partnership members. So you see, they're all back. They have created the bubbles and they come back. And then there is the WONGO, the associations of associations, like the Association of Mental Health and Psychiatric Associations. So they have all the countries mapping of all the association of psychiatrists in the world, for example. You see, the mapping is a military strategy. And so the WONGO, the Gongo Bingo, and what was the other one? The bingo, also the business interested, are all into humanitarian health. They were all into humanitarian aid. And I put my nose into it also for Yemen. And they say that they give so much money and you never have the proof they're given the money. So it was non-transparent. So all this gongo and government, the gongo is government NGO, like USAID. It's typical. And you see what they're doing with USAID. It's exactly the same with the whole family of NGOs accredited to the UN. You cannot just turn out and have an NGO and be accredited. The academia I was accredited to were two, one geriatric gerontology, but the other one was on psychological analysis of social issues. And all those people you can go to any meeting, you have different levels, but otherwise you cannot just come in. So they're choosing, it takes a long process. It takes 3 years, unless you know somebody who will push you in. You see, so it's not just what you think it is. WHO is a big, that put more and more departments. And one thing that shocked me also is that we never talked in IHR of vaccines. It was in the annex as a prophylactic tool, but nobody, not one expert, talked about it. Like it was a omerta. The rule was don't talk about it, because it should have been in IHR. They deployed it. They created fear to deploy a fake pandemic, not corresponding to IHR at all, and they rolled it out. Yeah, so that's just to explain that the UN and WHO is a large octopussy, and it goes far beyond, because there are privileged foundations that can come and sit in any meeting, like the Rockefeller Foundation, like the Vatican Observer, like they were changing always women's rights. They took off women's rights. So I knew the nuncio, and I went to him and I said, can you stop doing this? Because you're not helping humanity. So they meet every year, many meetings. The High Commission of Human Rights has UPR, the Universal Periodic Review of each country, if they respect human rights. They meet with Yemen, for example. I found that out. It's 3 to 4 times a year, officially. And every other agency or every issue is meeting at least once for an assembly general, like WHO, but they also have other side meetings to evolve, like WHO did with the international negotiating bodies. They met, I think, 17 times to implement this IHR and adopt partially, I think. Yeah, so it's all this, and there is a regulation that you find in every agency. It's always the same. But what is also completely crazy in WHO is the way to adopt anything like IHR. It's Article 19 of its constitution, and it is the only agency, WHO, where I saw the word constitution. And it seems they have taken that word to confuse everybody on their constitution is WHO constitution. So we always have to mention that it is WHO constitution. Yeah, so this constitution, Article 19, says that you just need 2/3 of the votes of member states to adopt anything globally. And this is not democratic. I mean, now that they have made it totally wrong and lied, we have to go back and read the text again. And we see why from Article 19 and Article 21 is exactly what happened now. And they're trying to make it implement. The Article 21, if you read it, it's the business of products, of diagnostics, of vaccines, of definitions, which they can change as they want if they have 2/3 of the votes. So I was shocked when I realized that the Constitution, which I had never read, is the tool of their diktat. And so IHR, WHO Constitution, and it's the only agency who has a constitution.
You
Now I don't know which.
You mentioned the Rockefellers and various other groups as well. Have you seen any evidence of Vatican involvement in all of this as well?
It is very sly how they do, because they select people that they are sure are on their side, like the Opus Dei and other secret societies. And I could see they were sitting like kings, in meetings. And they review when you want to change or make a convention or a thing for women's rights, for example, or any document, a resolution. They're sitting there and they read the text, the member states that are interested. And the Vatican is normally an observer, but they sit and they correct. And they correct on the screen. And then you can have the raw text, which is in the UN, but it doesn't go out, so you know who has done what. And that I realized, I was like, sure, that is not possible. But it was very nice. The Italian nuncio that I knew best was very nice. Then we had a former Archbishop of Ireland. I forgot his name. Very nice, but they're just obeying to the global Vatican. What another in this I was in a Catholic group of because I'm born Catholic, but I'm an international divine lover, I would say. But that's why I like interreligion. I cannot accept that we say that we are saved and they are not. I just cannot accept that. So yes, so I was in this Catholic international group for aging and helping them, to make. And they invited me to the Vatican World Family Gathering. It's in French, and it was in Valencia. So I went. I said, "Yeah, great, VIP, very, very good." So I was in the box. It was when Ratzinger took over. Okay, and I went to the scientific meeting because I thought I can navigate. I'm going to look at this, and that I saw that the Vatican has a scientific council, only men, maybe one woman. And they are deciding what is life and death at the birth level. And they were discussing very strange things. I don't remember now, but I thought this is like a closed meeting. I have the chance to come in. And those people have a political agenda. It's not just religious. So I cannot tell you more than that. But when you meet in those groups, the VIP, there you see that there is an agenda in research. They're cutting out this, they're cutting out that. They say that we can talk about this, we cannot talk about that. And So that's the only indice I have that they're everywhere.
Johnny.
The Garvey became a foundation in
Oh,
2006, and then I think it was made into an international organisation in 2009. And Bill Gates has somehow or other got full immunity through all this. Can you?
yes. Yes, it became actually I knew that 2009 it became a international government no non-governmental organization, but the Swiss had made, and I looked it backwards in retrospectively, had made an announcement that they had the privilege in Switzerland to welcome the Gavi and an international NGO. And in 2019, the Switzerland made another communique from the government and said we have the privilege to fund the building of Gavi, which is huge. It's 10 storage, and then it has all the business of vaccine primarily, and treatments and diagnostics, and exactly Article 21 of the Constitution of WHO. And they're just beside WHO and behind the World Council of Churches, which is another interesting, which a very interesting block that doesn't have access to the UN like the Vatican. You see, so the Vatican Catholics are not in the World Council of Churches, but they're very important. They have all the Christians of the world there. Yeah. So they're very in a strategic position, I think. Yeah.
Well, one of our guests, Trevor Loudon, who is an author, a New Zealand author living as an expat in New York City, has written very, very interesting books on all of communist infiltration around the world. We've had him on as a guest a couple of times. He informed me just recently that the World Council of Churches, through his research, was established by the KGB, the Russian KGB. So,
Really?
yeah.
It's strange because the KGB, I mean, the Orthodox Church is not in the World Council of Churches.
No, but what you do, the whole idea of communist and Marxist infiltration is first you demoralize the population, then you destabilize the population, then you normalize all that, and then you win. So part of the indoctrination process, first of all, it's get into entertainment like Hollywood, infiltrate entertainment to make sure that they're putting out the propaganda that you want to condition the people, demoralize, destabilize. Then you occupy the universities and you give yourself 15 to 30 years to get the universities to start teaching students not to think critically anymore and follow these woke agendas. And then the churches are the next part of the program, because the churches involve a great many people, especially the Protestant groups in the USA. And you infiltrate the churches and you get the doctrine changed subtly within the churches. And it just suits the Marxist regime, where the greatest enemy of communism and Marxism is Christianity. So you get into those organizations, and that's why they founded the World Council of Churches. A lot more to be unpacked about this, Astrid.
Yeah, I just want to mention, as we're on the topic, that I saw this agenda of mapping all religions of the world at the UN Summit of Spiritual and Religious Leaders, who was organized by Rudderfin Marketing Agency, Jewish, in New York. And they were collaborating, and they were funded also by CNN, Ted Turner, and there was also the Hinduja Bank, and there was Maurice Strong, who is at the head of the Rio agenda and with the Peace University of, he's been all over the UN, and he left to China. So they were actually, they were mapping at the UN Summit of Religious Leaders for 3 years to gather all the religious leaders of the world. And after that, they were invited some selection at the World Economic Forum, where Klaus Schwab was mapping all this. They had it all. It's the same network, So what is interesting, Klaus Schwab also started to go to the World Economic Forum those last 20 years. In China, I'm sorry. He created forum in China, and there seemed to have been a movement there that could explain. I don't see any Russian in this, but China, I have seen definitely clearly in the agenda of the church. And you can see that when they rolled out the injection, I called the head of the World Religion Association, with who Bawa Jain, which was at the head of this summit. And I told him, please tell the leaders to not vaccinate and tell the whole world. And I saw that they were completely trapped. No religious leader, even Sadhguru or Dalai Lama or the Tibetans that I know who have head offices who are not the Dalai Lama group, the others, they all had the order to inject. And I couldn't believe, I said, this is against anything. It's not an act of love, like the Pope said. So that was, for me, a turning point that they have mapped and taken years to map and bring together those big meetings that I had organized also to help them. We're just there to map every group in the world, which after that, we're going to be infiltrated.
I just want to share screen for a moment because this is very much in line with what we're talking about. So bear with me.
And while you do that, I want to add something we discussed yesterday that the people listening should know, that Gavi has signed illegally. I mean, we did not accept that in 2004, 5, after James Wolfenson, with whom I had collaborated. He was good. They have signed with Wolfowitz, World Bank, WHO, and Gavi, the IFFIM, the International Financing Facility for Immunization, or Facility Financing, created by Goldman Sachs. And they are kind of using the bonds. I don't know how they do. So if anybody who wants to go and have time to study, an economist, what is happening in the IFFIM, it's still on. And it's using your money. So it started also in the 2000s.
And Tedros is on the board of Gavi, isn't he?
Yeah, he was in 2000, just before he was elected, he was on the board with no signature. And Mary Robinson was 10 years before, after she left the Office of High Commissioner, she was on the Gavi board. I couldn't believe it. I collaborated with her. I was like, what? And she was also with the Vatican a lot. Yeah, so same group. And I can show you, you probably would recognize some names on the board if I send you the 2006 one and the 2009 one. It's you can see it is transparent in Switzerland, so you can see who is on the board and who has signature with the time, the dates, everything. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yes.
So that issue with the tax into the bonds, that's obviously a way of them making money on the side, is it?
Yeah, there is, you see, there are people have an interest. Some people are trapped and cannot do any other way. Some people are coerced or have been trapped in the Sado pedocriminal thing. But some people get money and their interest is just money. They don't look at any. So I think the way to pay them, because we have proof of contracts of European Union with Pfizer. It's probably with every country, or it's maybe with the Commonwealth. They paid, they arranged it so you don't see it. Yeah, so they have to have a payment system. What better than have bonds and things that nobody sees? If Goldman Sachs has created it, must be somewhere. Don't you think? I'm not an economist.
I just want to share screen very quickly and show you a photograph. Can you see that okay?
Yes, yes, yes.
There we have a meeting of Pope Francis with all the world's religious leaders. And who's in the background there, John? Our very own mining magnate, Twiggy Forrest, and his wife.
Really?
Yeah.
Who is it?
He's a mining magnate from Australia.
Oh.
Twiggy Forrest. Now, what is Twiggy Forrest doing in the middle of a group photo like that?
And who's the other one? It's not Greta there, is it?
No, I think that might be Twiggy's wife. I'm not sure.
What year is this? I have the press releases. With the WEF, after this religious summit, they had the C100, and the Archbishop of Canterbury was heading that. So they already had the gathering of religious leaders, but after this summit, they became C100. It's called like that, and it was always the Archbishop of Canterbury. So you probably linked to that too.
And look, the thing that people need to be mindful of here, Astrid, is that the WHO never had any outside influences, did it? I mean, it didn't have any of these private partnerships. There wasn't the Bill Gateses of the world initially demanding a seat at the table as like the fifth state. Um,
Exactly.
so,
It's illegal.
it's
It's a
illegal.
violation of the charter.
And so these people are conflicted, aren't they? Every time they make a decision, I mean, they're looking after their own business interests before the interests of the people.
Oh, today they definitely are giving orders to member states, and they're not entitled to do this. This is what they're taking a place in the world with the in the press. McKinsey actually is working for them. It's this agency that never before it was like that. So the private sector has been paid. I have this from WHO insider who are now retired or can speak and told me and gave me some data. McKinsey since 2016 is paid millions to make all their agenda, their communique in the press, etc., in multilingual language everywhere in the world. This was never like that. The coercion they are doing, attacking the misinformation, is against the right of expression, the human rights of health, the human rights of mobility. Everything that they have done is breaching and violating their own law and of IHR, but also the UN Charter, the Declaration of Human Rights, and all the instruments within the UN. So this, it's shocking that they have taken stage like that in the press because they own it. The only explanation is they are a corporation and they own it. They own it all. They're not on our side. Member states are not member. They even call them parties sometimes. So they are the private sector today, and they probably have signed to get those bonds. The corporation, they're getting money paid by the higher, richer, and they don't belong to us anymore. And
We're
they
talking,
maybe would like to save the people, but they can't.
we're talking about fascism because the definition of fascism is government and corporations working for the common good. And that's
Oh,
what fascism's all about. And that's what we're seeing at the moment. The world's changing. I mean, the ideologies of the 30s and 40s, and even going back to the turn of the century when Karl Marx first reared his very ugly head, has been global domination. And we're seeing it played out right before our eyes.
yeah. What's new is that it is global.
Yeah.
This is, one health, one government, and this is something that a lot of people don't understand. They think it is just them, or no, it is global. The orders come from a global entity. Rockefeller, by the way, changed medicine 100 years ago, and he was standing in the aging group sometimes, and I said, "What are you doing here?" And it was so they covering up, always secret, non-transparency. But people have to understand it's global. What happens with education of children, mistreatment behind the door without telling the parents, is happening everywhere in the world, in Switzerland too.
So we're
I
looking
mean,
at
WHO.
we're looking at one world government, one world health, one world religion, one world currency.
Yeah.
You own nothing.
One ID, one AI. AI for all. This is the slogan on the United Nations Plaza today. Every year they have AI for all meeting. I went to one to see what it's like. I was not impressed, because there were robots. There was Sophia, and I was questioning them. I even have the video, but they're not showing really what in their capacity. And now there is a meeting beginning of July. You can register online. It's a digital for all, for the World Summit of Information Society. Why is this? I was organizing that in 2002. So it's much more technology than we think, and transhumanist and AI, and voila. That's also a very big danger that people should not be careful, with.
Astrid, look, by any stretch of the imagination, you are a public health expert. There, I mean, that is not debatable. What went on during COVID? The definition of a pandemic was obviously flouted by these grubs. They've changed the rule book. The goalposts have moved. There's been no autopsies. They haven't looked at other causes. I mean, the whole thing's just a complete mess, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I made a graphic of coherence because I was thinking, how can people make coherence of what happened? And it's actually quite easy to make. You have the first, if you make a timeline from 2020, even if apparently it started before, of course, 2019, there were already groups who had this, what they call COVID. But okay, so 2020, it was the creation of fear. And this is, for me, clear. It's against IHR. I was in charge of the communication lectures with the anchor of CNN, and we were doing simulations of in the workshops when we were residential. It was online and residential, and we're making exercises so people don't create fear is the first thing. Second is transparency. Then it is say you don't know, and we are looking for things. And so it was so clear to me, and that's an IHR rule. You cannot communicate fear because you create panic. And it's exactly what they did. So for me, the first bubble was creating fear, creating lies, because there is nothing that corresponds to IHR. To declare a pandemic, it's impossible. Actually, they were discussing this. I think I already discussed that, but people know. In 2013, when I was doing a workshop for the WHO Europe Eastern Bloc, they had to do exercises and make posters of how they would manage this. And beside me, we were discussing with WHO. People were there from the headquarters, and they said we cannot use pandemic because up to now they had 6 pandemic level. So 6 steps until you could get a declaration of pandemic. So it is not just in 2 months. And this woman said no, because Tajikistan has sued WHO over H1N1 because they had bought millions of Tamiflu on the budget of the country, and WHO declared oh no, it's finished. And they had all this stock of Tamiflu. So they sued WHO, Tajikistan, and that's not known in the press. And it was a very good example to show that dictatorship is not working and is not working financially or with people. So they adjusted now. You see, they adjusted and they corrupted the heads of states so they would never say that. And they would pay them in the back with bonds or like that. Yeah.
I'm wondering if it might be possible, because I know you've got a lot of really good graphics.
Yeah.
we would really love to have you back on in a week or so to do a full presentation with all your graphics. Is that a possibility?
Yes, I think it would be easier also for people because they would understand systematically things, and a graphic is always very useful. So I can just say it now, but I will show it to them. And it corresponds really well. 2020, creation of a virus that was never identified. And the virus that is changing and mutating is a flu. And there was no flu in the statistic, and there was only what they called COVID. They should have called it SARS-CoV-2 for the least. And I wrote an article on that SARS-CoV-2 and SARS-CoV-1 disappeared after 8 months, 24 countries touched, and it's just a flu. So creation of fear, creation of what they call COVID, which is probably a code for something else, to keep on the trigger word of fear with COVID. Each time you say COVID, people jump, So it was really a programmation of fear, constant fear of something deadly, which is not deadly. Professor Ioannidis showed that there is no more deaths in many countries in 2020. So creation of fear, of words, of pandemic, of the whole theater of words to roll out the vaccine in January 2021. So 2021, second timeline, the program was to roll out the vaccine and vaccinate as many people. It is an experimental vaccine. They never mentioned it afterwards. And not only one experiment, they made shots on and on, up to 4 super dose on an experiment. I mean, it's because of fear. I think that this programmation of the first year and of all the other subversive programmation of other things, of vaccines in the faculties of medicine, of corruption. We're preparing all this. So 2021, the rollout of this vaccine. And then I discovered, and that's what I put in the graphic, that WHO had the agenda of genome editing and of ID digital vaccine. And that was in August 21. And I started to be alerted and I said, what the heck is that? And they had this genome editing documents, and I have pictures in my slide, distributed at all levels, at the level of the national, international, but national country, to the head of the epidemiology, etc. So yeah, that was, yeah, very good. Yeah, it's exactly the same in 2020. Yeah, except that there is no fruit. And the problem that we saw, and I cannot list how much corruption there was, is that we know that doctors were paid to put the vaccine, the COVID, not only the vaccine, but the COVID label with PCR test, which is illegal. It's a lab tool. You cannot. And I always mention I'm expert on many tribunals, so I have a 10-page or 5 that demonstrate that the CDC said you cannot use this PCR for managing an epidemic or pandemic. Then you have WHO who says you need a doctor, and the PCR, and there was another document, and Kari Mullis, the head of the Nobel Prize for PCR, also said you cannot use a PCR outside the lab. You have to know what you're looking for. So the PCR, I spoke on the Swiss radio and with the head of the lab, and it was impossible. We don't use tools like this in public health to make diagnostic in public health. You don't have to prove that you're healthy. This was a whole thing. Now it's like if people are not healthy, if they're healthy, they have to prove they're healthy. That's what they wanted to. So 2021, they did that. They started to roll out genome editing. So everybody had to give the genome and the ID pass. And they wanted to go on and roll on their AI transhumanist agenda. Then they started talking of smart city. So I put 23, 24, smart city, ID grid, EMF, electromagnetic disruption, infrasound. Now we know there's even infrasound with the windmill thing. And so the rollout for them is very clear. And at the same time, they were censoring truth, censoring scientists. And I could see waves of crimes and waves of censorship from autumn 2020. It started the censorship. Even in our movement, actually, sometimes.
Yeah.
I was censored many times because I disclosed in public health, you present the research of people that have the criteria. You are helping the experts you choose for public health. And there were so many reports from Quinta Columna, Compra, Professor Arne Burkhardt, even Robert Young, who showed there is nanotech, there is a chip in the vaccines, there are metals, there's chrome, nickel, that's Arne Burkhardt, and they have parasites. But what is very interesting is that a Canadian, I have to mention that before I forget, a Canadian, Dr. Nagazi, said suddenly, I have tested phosphor and nitrogen, and there is, to have life and call it biology, you need both. There is nothing in the vaccine that is biological. And for me, this is a turning point, because it means that what we are facing is Bill Gates' technology, nanotechnology expert. No, he's not an expert, but he pays. And it is not a biological virus. It is a nanotech virus. It's everything has to be looked at. If they inject a chip, if they inject graphene oxide, that is an emitter, receptor, can stock information, they can manipulate people from a distance, and DARPA knows that. And I found this video. Please, people who don't believe this, look at YouTube. The neuropsychology of war by Charles Morgan, and he says, yes, with graphene oxide you can direct a monkey who is in Australia from Switzerland. So I mean, you see, I've gone very far in my research, and I have all the people I know in my network. There are very good people in Australia, also Dr. Nixon, for example, but there are many others that have, in silence, are keeping on studying what is going on, and we put everything together, and their agenda is rolling out, and that's why stopping this IHR and talking about it is so important, that people don't touch anymore their children with any injection if they can. Otherwise, detox.
we can't let you go this time. We will have you back next week, please, but we can't let you go
Yeah.
this time without asking about Reiner Fuellmich.
Oh yeah.
What's happening with him now? I mean, this is the most dreadful case of legal abuse you could ever wish to imagine, John. We thought Julian Assange was bad, and it was. This is in
Yeah.
that league. Tell us what you know about Reiner Fuellmich at the moment.
Well, I met him because somebody gave my name to his Corona-Ausschuss, and I was called to talk about WHO and Bill Gates, and nobody knew that Bill Gates had total immunity and wanted to be part of WHO and is still head of WHO. They elected Tedros, by the way, without the consent of the country, so it shows you the private sector has taken over. Yeah, so Reiner, when I did that, he had his three colleagues, and I spoke twice in the first years on WHO, but also on their system of how they wanted to lock down and do, in the country, what was happening with CEPI and other mechanics. They always have grids of grids, and they have Ponzi schemes, Ponzi schemes, but that work. Yeah. So, and then I was part of the grand jury on day 1 and day 2. On day 1 with another person who has made her PhD on IHR. I can't remember all the names anymore. So the first day and the second day was on PCR tests. And then it was rolling out for a week, and it was fantastic. And they taped everything. They made a little brochure. So I thought he was, and I was in his group, and he said that we have to go to the International Court of Justice and blah, blah. And I started saying it's not possible. You can try, but I don't think it's worth it because it's already occupied. It's not possible that WHO can act like a bad kid and nobody says anything from the International Court of Justice that manages disputes. So for a country. So he then started to go in other ways, and then he was, I don't know if people know that, but he was one of the biggest, incredible lawyer who won cases against Volkswagen, Deutsche Bank, which is so difficult. And there he was going against, he was also talking of the PCR. He did very good points. That's how I saw how good he is with Drosten from the Charité University, who was a PCR propagandist, and Tedros. So he made, I think, about 400 auditions, people who invited. And then he got betrayed. I was called to talk with WHO Israel because WHO Europe had a meeting in Israel, which is unprecedented, and they called me, and Reiner was not there. And I said, what's going on? And Vivian was there, in and out, and I didn't know what was happening. And I saw 3 days later that Vivian Fischer and Wolfgang, what's his name? Woodart, who was in the H1N1 in Europe scandal, they kicked Reiner out of his own tribunal, his own Corona-Ausschuss, his group of committee. And I was so shocked. I thought, there is a betrayal. There was a clear betrayal. Then he created the International ICIC, International Committee of Corona-Ausschuss, because he started to disclose nanotech. I said, you cannot not invite people who speak of much more than just virus, because Woodart was for the virus, so he was paid. And we know today, in the tribunal where he is detained in prison, that Woodart, Vivian Fischer, and the 2 other lawyers have been set up by the German government already in 2020. Can you imagine? He started in 2020. He was with traitors. They have 5 steps in advance on us, just to show you what's going on now. So he created an ICIC, and he started inviting everybody, and he's incredible. He manages to bring, with a lot of coherence, all those topics together. He also invited Georgescu from United Nations, who tried to be president of Romania, who explained for a diplomat, he took risks because he explained much more than anybody dared to do. So, and then what happened, he was probably going too far. He had to move to Mexico because they stopped his asset in California and in Germany. He had a house in Germany. He had a house in California. they stopped and took his belongings, and they accused him of embezzlement when they had made a common fund with all the donation, and they had given it to a lawyer called Template, who actually to this day keeps the money of Reiner, the funding. But also he sold his house, and he is holding his money. So they arrested him illegally in October, now 18 months, 23. In October 23, he was in Mexico with his wife, Inca, and he had lost his passport, so they probably stole it. He had to go to the embassy. They said, yeah, come back. It was in Mexico. Come back. And he made the papers to get a passport. And they said, come and get the passport at the airport because the embassy of Germany has a problem of reconstruction or renovation of their offices. So he went to the airport with Inca and they arrested him. And they detained him because they are on German soil. So they arrested him with the complicity of Mexico, which is illegal, with no warrant. And they kept him, and then I think they kept him a few days, then flew him to Texas and then to Germany. And he was detained with no warrant, illegally. He started handcuffed and no lawyer. So he was in the prison of Rossdorf, the highest security prison of Germany. And to this day, he has been preventively, he was detained preventively. You can only do that for 6 months. And over 6 months, they started even to start torture him and forbid him to go and see his mother dying at the hospital unless he would take handcuffs and chains on his feet. And I mean, everything was wrong. And they also did not accept that his doctors see him. And they put him in isolation. And that was on the day after 6 months when he should have gone out on his birthday, in 5th of May, I think it is. And there was one of the first round of tribunal hearings. They accused him of having some devices that on him. So they strapped his clothes off, put him in isolation, and didn't let him have his birthday. And they made an operation of psychological terror on him, which is in the United Nations. And that's where I come today, because after the trial has been finished, everything, we tried many ways to get him out, take him out of the system of the fraud of name with Dolores Calhill. And it was too difficult. The wife said she's worried that it would harm him, because if you get out, then no tribunal can arrest you. But they are Nazis. So that was the first step. The second step was to say that this is illegal and to make big posters. And finally, I thought last year, no, we have to try the UN anyway. There is a committee on arbitrary detention. There are independent experts that we can ask. We have to make a buzz. There is an unfair trial, unfair arrest, illegal arrest, kidnapping, because it's called kidnapping. And here is torture and inhuman treatment. And even Reiner himself has written what he is living. So we are helping all we can that we don't forget him. That's the number one, because I was last year, 1st of June, in front of the UN against the IHR and treaty, and I spoke about Reiner and said there was a bus with Assange, 10, 12 lawyers against WHO, not one mentioned Reiner. And I know now that they are betrayers even outside the prison of Reiner that don't want him to silence him. So we are against a war of, he has so much central visibility for creating an international tribunal of the people that he's dangerous, and the Nazis want to hold him. And they don't want us to talk about him. So we started with Virginie and Dexter from South Africa, lawyer from the grand jury, the ones that have not betrayed him, to create documents, and we send it to Reiner to sign for arbitrary detention. And his lawyer took our document and contacted somebody in the UN who is retired. And I had a talk with him, and he's a setup. He was lying. He was lying, and he doesn't know what he said. No, we cannot file for torture. He doesn't know the definition of torture. Torture is only to put chains on the feet is torture. To put him in isolation when it's unfair is torture. The psychological terror is torture. So he is set up. You know how I know he was lying? It's crazy, but if it happens to you, he changed a meeting at the last minute and said, "Oh, I forgot I'm in south of France, so I cannot be in Geneva." He had set a meeting with me in Geneva on a Friday at 6 o'clock. At 5:45, he says, "Oh, I forgot I'm in France." So I was really suspicious. I thought Katja Vermeer has called him. But on his glasses, I said, "So is it sunny there?" And I could see there were clouds on his glasses. He had optic glasses, and on his clouds there were on his glasses there were clouds. And he said, "Yes, it's very sunny." And there was no sun. And I mean, we are with a group of Nazi around Reiner that is very dangerous. And now they changed him prison. So he's going from Rosdorf to Bremen ward, which is near where his mother died, but I don't know if it's a worse prison or not. But they did something because probably they're threatened that we could find a legal way, and they're destabilizing him. But there is a group who is standing in front of his prison every day. So now they all have to move to Bremen. So today what we can do is pray, number one, because there are really bad people around him. Even I don't trust his lawyer anymore, and also they set up some media like BAM and Essential News that are going with the narrative of what they don't want to say and what they want to say. So I think we have to talk about it and see if we can find a way. I asked a military. He said we need to extract him, and I said no, that's too dangerous. I mean, they're mad. So I think we have to be patient, but keep on talking about him. And if every group in the world starts telling, we also wrote to your prime minister who helped Assange out. You know, he was very important in the Assange liberation. So you have also, you know, try to see who you can influence. And if you have any idea, I can give you all the documents
Don't
we
expect
have.
anything from Anthony Albanese.
Okay,
Not
okay. Thank
where Reiner Fuellmich's concerned, because Albanese would have done that for PR for Assange, but he
Oh,
won't do anything. He won't do anything to unleash Reiner Fuellmich to bring out the truth that would unseat Anthony Albanese. So that's
oh.
a faint hope, but you know, there's
But thank you
something.
for telling me that, because you see, we don't know, and
Yeah,
I'm working with some other people who said, yeah, yeah, it's good. I said, it's even worse because then
No,
they see,
he's part of the cabal. The
yeah.
first thing that Bill Gates did was meet with Anthony Albanese when he came here.
Oh my God.
yeah, just flew
Oh,
in
then
on
we went
Sunday.
right into the trap of the bad guys.
Yeah,
Shit.
he
Yeah,
certainly
sorry.
is. Look, we've gone way over time, Astrid. We need to bring it to a halt, but we will convene next week. We'll liaise with you on that, and if you could get
Okay.
a presentation for us, because we could unpack this for weeks.
Mm.
You've been a
Yes.
wonderful guest,
Thank
so
you. You too.
we might close with a prayer if that's okay.
Yes, please put Reiner Fuellmich in the prayer.
Yeah. Dear Lord Father in heaven, we have been talking about a wonderful man who's stood firmly for truth in spite of incredible threats and great odds, who is now detained, uncharged, and untried, Father God, in the most terrible circumstances. So, as he is in solitary confinement wherever he is, we pray that your Holy Spirit will be with him. We pray that he will know that there are people out there who love him and want him free, and that we will all do the best we can to have him released and restored in humanity. Father God, we pray for this dreadful world that we're in. We pray for governments to have courage to actually say no. And we pray for governments to have elected representatives who will also turn down bureaucrats, who will also come out and say we need to act in accordance with the people. So, Father, it's a mess. We can't do it without you. We thank you for our guest, Father God, and for her honesty, and we ask you to protect her as well. In the special name of Jesus, we pray. Amen. All right, Astrid.
Just finally, Astrid, can I just finally ask one quick question to just make it very brief? But I mean, you speak four languages, you're across lots of cultures, you're very well educated on history, obviously. Do you think this current day scenario that we've been involved in the last 5 years is the worst atrocity in modern history? Is it worse than Nazi Germany?
I think Nazi Germany won the war and has infiltrated all the governments now. For me, it's clear that they have always been there and just preparing their third world war if they can to eliminate us. But I have a very strong feeling that it had to happen. When it happened, I was like, thank God, finally. I know why I'm here. You know why you are here. This is it is apocalyptic. It is enormous. It is beyond what we know. We think the more I get into it, the more I see how it's much bigger. It's spiritual. The CERN is asking entities to come in. I have proofs from the research director. So I think that the fact that there are so many who are spiritually strong and protected like that, but that this is going in the right direction, even if it looks like it's not. I feel it and I see that this is necessary, that we are pushed, and those who choose not to, it's their right, but we have to just inform them and try to be with them. Yeah, the biggest humanity we can. They are not human. There's something completely off with them. But yeah, so no, I have hope. I think this year is probably the worst, but I hope that's true. And we have to keep in the long run. Yeah,
A
that's I
great
think
way
we
to
are.
think.
Great
Thanks,
way
Astrid.
to finish, yeah. And Reiner Fuellmich is a friend of this program. We interviewed him 3 times, and we interviewed him sadly 1 week before he was arrested, and he was talking about the issues he was going through in Mexico and having to have his dogs brought down by a friend who met him at the border, and we just can't believe what's happened to him. So it's something, John, we need to keep following up now. We need to ramp this
Yeah.
up.
Yep.
I think, yeah, and you can send, we will give the address so people can send him, nice letters. And I know he appreciates our actions. He is, in a way or another, he knows, he can see things. So I'm sure he will really appreciate, your prayers and
Yeah.
you, and I will talk about it.
If you could please let us know that address, we'll make sure that he gets some messages from Australia. Johnny Larder, you've often been heard to say,
You just couldn't make this stuff up.
no, you couldn't. Stay out of the trees, everyone. Don't forget, if you love your country, stand for it, whether it's Germany, Switzerland, Australia, America, China, whatever. If you love it, stand up for it. And if you love peace, live with compassion. Get behind those people who are doing the best they can to bring truth to light. God bless you all, and we'll see you next time on Club Grubbery. And Astrid, once again, Astrid Stuckelberger, you've been absolutely incredible, and we'll have you on next week. We thank you for joining us. Bye for now.
Thank you.